Okay,
and the
that's a great.
inspiration that was
That
behind that.
happened. We're at a good point for this because it happened in sobriety.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
after one of the ones, I think that I was really feeling bold enough to speak about religion versus sexuality and my 6 years of conversion therapy and how I loved God so much, but I felt so rejected. So I had this album called The Gospel According to Levi.
The Spiritual Shitshow Podcast with Suzanne Soul. Episode Dirty 30.
Hey, you delicious motherfuckers, and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow Podcast, where we get into the great balls of fire the healing and spiritual awakening journey can be. I'm your host, Suzanne Soul, comedian, lifelong spiritual student, and I'm sharing some of the delicious stuff I've learned along my journey that has helped me, and that I hope helps you too. Okay, you guys, I am so freaking excited because I am chitty-chatting with my wildly talented, amazing friend and soul brother, Tony Award-winning actor, soul-stirring singer-songwriter, soul-shaking musician, and spiritual seeker with Southern charm, Mr. Levi Kreis. Listen, when I tell you this motherfucker is talented, I mean, you know where beyond the beyond is? Well, beyond that. Levi won the 2010 Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical for his electrifying portrayal of Jerry Lee Lewis in Million Dollar Quartet. The discography of Levi's music is a heartfelt journey through gospel, soul, and pop, reflecting his own path of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual evolution. But wait! There's more! Now how much would you pay? Nothing, because it's free. It's a podcast and it's free. Levi is a spiritual seeker in his own right and has recently rebooted his spiritual podcast, the Church of Kreis, as in Levi Kreis, where he shares insights on spirituality, creativity, and personal growth. In this episode, Levi and I talk about what it means to really live out loud and be true to your soul and the truth of your being. And Levi shares about his incredible journey as an artist, how he reconciles the glamour of the stage with the gritty business of healing and evolving, and why spiritual alignment isn't a performance, it's a lifestyle. So get ready for a conversation that's enlightening as it is entertaining. Y'all, Levi Kreis is in the house, so let's go. Levi Kreis!
Hi.
OMG!
Thanks for having me in the house.
I am beyond privileged. I am beyond honored for you to be on my shit show.
Oh, okay. So can we just say how much I love the name of this podcast? The Spiritual Shitshow.
Yeah.
Is the most amazing ever. And it's the perfect combination. You know, we go way back. We've known each other for years.
Yeah.
We've hung out in many different capacities from music, worship
Backup
leading,
singers.
backup singers, all kinds of it. And you know that this is a great platform because it really does combine the heart and soul of who you are with the humor and the comedy. So I'm excited to hang out with you today.
Thank you. I'm just, like I said, I'm so honored to have you. I'm a fan. I'm not going to lie. You are just one of the most talented motherfuckers I know.
Oh, can I curse?
Yes, queen. This is called shit show. No.
Well, with a very polite S.
Yes.
Like you left the T out.
Yes.
Like my grandmother used to do. She would never say, she would always go, well,
It's like
she would leave the I out.
She left the vowel out.
She left the vowel out. She was the best.
No, but seriously, you are honestly one of the most talented. I'm going to say it again. You are one of the most talented motherfuckers I know.
Oh,
and I am just so pleased as punch to have you here on the podcast to talk about your artistry, your creative soul, your amazingness. Your talent that oozes.
Very kind.
Oh my God,
it's
stop.
Very kind.
Obviously, everybody, who knows you knows that you are an accomplished performer. You've been on Broadway. You've been on the
Broadway. On the boards, working on the boards. Most people would know me in the theater world as originating the role of Jerry Lee Lewis
Yes.
in
Amazing.
Tony-nominated musical, Million Dollar Quartet, but that role won me a Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical, and that was in 2010.
I watched it. I watched you win, and we were all screaming in the house.
Oh my God.
I was with a bunch of your friends, and we were all screaming.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's amazing.
Where were you then?
I was in Chicago. I was
in Chicago.
Yeah. With all the Bodie people.
The Bodie people.
And we had a whole crew, and we all screamed a bloody murder.
Oh my God. I did too. I did not know that was, I did not anticipate. I did not know.
It was incredible.
But for those listeners who do not know that moment, I thanked Bodie Spiritual Center in my speech, in my acceptance speech, because I had just started a year before my journey in getting sober. Yeah. And on May 27th, 2009, I finally got sober from a crystal meth issue that kind of kept me busy for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it really took a lot of the classes at Bodhi Spiritual Center. I just kept putting myself in one class after the other until years later I found I was a licensed spiritual practitioner. I didn't really intend to. I just needed to stay sober and kept showing up. Yeah. But it really was a life-changing thing for me. Now, a lot of I find a lot of people who have nieces and nephews who are not in theater might know me from some of my music usage, and the Vampire Diaries was a big thing.
Amazing.
Sons of Anarchy, that sort of thing. And then there's the older gay brothers who were there back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8 when I was an out singer-songwriter with this little motley crew of other gay singer-songwriters who were sort of rejected from the mainstream record labels because it wasn't acceptable at the time. And so we all did our own thing as this troubadour group. We'd go to all the Pride festivals. It's called the Out Music Movement. Yeah. And so it was very popular in the 2000s, and a lot of gay people started finding out singer-songwriters throughout, and Genre and Advocate Magazine and Logo and all of these outlets. And so that's actually where it began for me, because even though I was still doing theater that whole time, it wasn't really until 2010 that win sort of eclipsed anything else
Incredible.
I would have done.
Are you, and you don't have to, but would you like to share about why you were moved to create that?
My story was that, without getting too far into it, I had gone through 8 major record labels in the late 90s and early 2000s, where every time I was signed, you named the music mogul, they signed me. I'm telling you, it was with Arista, A&M, Columbia, Sony, the work group with Fiona Apple's label. Atlantic Records was the last one in 2004. But every time we got rolling and they found out that I had been outed in my college, which is a whole other story of itself, which deals with a religious roommate finding out I had been in 6 years of conversion therapy and telling the whole campus and the board of directors meeting to deliberate on whether or not to kick me out of college, et cetera, et cetera. But it basically outed me. And there was no way I could pretend anymore. So I like to joke with other artists who are well-known names I won't mention, who talk about being out, and I'm like, yeah, bitch, because you had the freedom of zipping your lip and getting your number ones. Yeah. I was outed to the campus. Yeah. So every time that they would come around, then the marketing department would say, we can't put millions of dollars behind to break this, because in the 2000s, nobody had done it. Yeah. Nobody had started their career as an openly gay artist.
And I just want to say, first of all, obviously, it was their loss, 100 million times over 100 million. They are the ones who lost out, because, like I said, you are one of the most talented motherfuckers I know. But at the same time, I always look for the gifts, and you're the creative force that came out of that for you, of your tapping into your inner life and your spiritual life, is so moving. And there are so many beautiful songs that you have written that are just touch you and it's because of your journey. You're an artist like no other to me.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do think that 20 years an independent artist, and you're living without a safety net. You're the one making your graphic designs, your website, selling CDs out of your car, booking your own tours, and doing all of it yourself until you're blue in the face. Year 10, year 20. But like I had to have a reason, and I think the freedom of not having to produce records that were really formulaic for a mass market allowed me to find a deeper reason why to push through the challenges and the struggles. And for me as a church kid, that just meant message, right? Like if I can make a difference with a message, then I feel like I'm doing something that is going to fuel me to keep going. And doing such a hard path like that.
Well, I know you've touched so many people's hearts and souls with your music for sure, including myself. And, just the story of you reinventing yourself when the music industry was in a place where they were so limiting, is such an inspiration, I'm sure, to many artists who, for whatever reason we're like, oh, you don't fit in our box, so see you later.
Right.
And it's, and we've seen that in the music industry.
For sure. For sure. Well, I certainly wasn't the only one, and the out music movement came to be what it is because there were a lot of very talented singer-songwriters who found that the mainstream labels was a dead end because they just wouldn't put millions of dollars behind an artist who was openly gay at that point. It hadn't happened yet until I believe it might have been like Rufus Wainwright was the tipping point. I think that his record was his debut record. When he came on the radar, I was just like, oh shit, things just changed.
Yeah, that must have felt good.
It felt good, but at the same time, it was like, dang.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess my thunder happened just a few years too early, But so much happened with this movement of these singer-songwriters, and so many of us we did all the Pride festivals. We were in every gay rag internationally. I mean, it was a thing. Yeah. And a lot of the gay culture is just sort of like forgotten about the out music movement now, but
maybe it's time to bring it back.
I mean, at this point now, it's actually it's so mainstream. It's like our HR departments are expecting you to do that. It's like it's so corporate to be gay now that there's not. That's the thing. Like being a Gen Xer, it's like I loved that I knew of a time when being gay was really punk. It was it was actually really rebellious.
You were on the edge.
Yeah, you were like, you had points to prove. You were like in your face
like,
to the man.
Like, fuck you, I'm gay.
And like no major network wanted to touch you. No major record label. I mean, you were truly punk.
Yeah.
And like nowadays, it's like you are the system if you're gay. Yeah. And so I'm like, more.
It's a wonderful thing, and it's also like takes away from that.
And like old news, who cares?
Yeah.
But that's it. That's progress too.
Yeah,
that's what happens when integration is a success. Yeah. Then like you really are integrated, and nobody cares.
You're like, no, it's just normal.
It's just normal.
So I wanted to ask you, so when you started so you had that experience, and then you started into a songwriting time when you knew you were doing it just for yourself. When did that time come for you where you were like, I'm writing about the truth of who I am?
It started with the decision to be like, it's one thing for a label to find out you have been outed, but you're not out professionally, and then to decide that you're going to be out professionally.
Right.
Like I had not brought that to the forefront.
Right.
So when it's a little bit of a story. So I was the last major record label that I was with was Atlantic Records, and we were recording this album. We got several tracks done, and I still have them. It just sounds so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I went out to get coffee for my producer and the engineer. And when I came back, the room was completely different. Weird. Everybody had left, and it was just me and the producer. And he says, "Sit down for a minute." And I'm like, I don't understand what's wrong.
Yeah.
And he says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, "Tell you what?" He goes, "Levi, I just went through your computer."
Oh my God, how rude.
I know. And I was looking through your iTunes for song demos, and I came across this For Steve, and I listened to it. Now, For Steve was a voicemail that was 6 minutes long to a guy I was into who lives in Amsterdam. But not only until the last 60 seconds does anything about the voicemail even give away. So
it's like,
imagine the producer sitting for 6 minutes listening to this conversation I had. It wasn't even steamy. It wouldn't have even like outed me until that last 60 seconds. So that already was like, okay, so you're listening to my voice.
Yeah,
memo
whoa, that is fucked up.
That doesn't sound like you're listening for song demos,
right,
if you're spending 6 minutes listening to a voice message.
Oh, yeah, that's so awful.
It was a little weird.
It's very weird.
So he confronted me, and I was like, yes, this is true.
Yeah.
And it was maybe a month later when that obviously went to his, higher up, and the label had to have the conversation. And like every label before, I was gone with Atlantic Records. Now, I think my producer felt really, I'm not going to say anybody's name because you know him, but he felt bad. And he threw an olive branch my way when he was going to be on an episode of The Apprentice, NBC's The Apprentice, as a music producer. And they were going to film an episode where both teams get an unsigned artist, and they are to write, record, package, and produce a song for XM radio, for Sirius XM.
Yeah.
For XM Cafe was the show at the time. And he gave me a call, and he goes, hey, I feel really bad about everything that's kind of happened. I just wanted you to know I submitted you for this, because how cool would it be if you did this? There's like thousands of submissions. Well, it turns out that they did call me in to audition for them. I ended up getting chosen for the show.
Of course.
My team won. And so then you leave the set, and you've got to sign a confidentiality agreement that you can't talk about what happened for I think 6 months or so.
Until it's revealed on the television show.
Right. Yeah. So I went home, and I'm like, got, $200 in my pocket and a catering gig because they booted me out of my Upper East Side digs when they dropped me from Atlantic Records. All of a sudden I have nothing. That was humbling.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what do I do? I know that I'm going to be singing on national television. I've got time to figure this out, and I can't buy groceries. So I went into the city, and I said, I do have all these rejected songs about boys that nobody had heard of, or songs that I had written about boys that Atlantic loved, but they thought that they were a little too tender and lovey and like, what was the word that they would use? Precious. A little too precious. And I said, well, I got to have something to sell. If I had something to sell, it'd be great. Yeah. So I literally went into New York City, and I went into a studio, and I told the guy behind the counter, I said, hey, if you give me 1 hour in the studio, I will record all of these songs down, one take. I've got $200. What do you say? He let me do it.
Oh my God, amazing.
So I recorded like every track, one track down.
I mean, who else could do that? Come on.
It was so imperfect. It was like it, and
oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing.
And I talked to our friend Del Shores, and I told Del Shores what we had done, because it's a writer director friend of mine, and he was like, you should name that album One of the Ones, because I've met all of these guys, and every time you met them, you always said, he's the one, he's the one, he's the one, he's the one, he's the one. So my debut album, One of the Ones, ended up being a collection of piano vocal songs that I had written about boys I had dated.
I love that.
And I got it all packaged together. A friend of mine helped me get my website together, and here we are now, 6 months later, and The Apprentice is about to air. And lo and behold, I sold out of the first 1,000 literally before bed that night.
My God, amazing.
And we reordered quick more. I kept taking orders.
This is back in the day where people were getting like CDs.
CDs.
Yes, they have physical things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's kind of what started it, because then I got basically introduced to the world through XM Cafe, XM Radio, played my music, and I got to perform those songs about boys on XM Radio
Oh my God,
for
amazing.
the world.
Amazing.
And all of a sudden, like the gay world, the out music world was then like, do you want to come on tour with our out music, Eric Hyman, sponsored by gay.com? And I'm like, sure. And that's kind of where all that began.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, I love that. Obviously, getting into the industry in a high profile way is amazing. And at the same time, living your art, like as an expression of yourself is, I don't know. I don't think you can.
It felt really
beat that.
exposed,
Yeah.
right? I felt like, oh my God, here I'm talking about, like, I can still smell you on my sheets. I can still feel the way you tremble when I hold you close to me. And I'm like, I'm talking about these boys.
It's getting hot in here.
And that was some of the mild lyrics.
No, but I love it so much. Like I understand that, where when it falls apart in the big leagues, and you still are an artist in your heart and soul, and you can't not create.
I can't not.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you create stuff that comes from your soul.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but my experience of that is it's like a birthing of a new version of yourself, and you cannot emulate that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you have to do it too as a creative. We have that in common. You have to keep reaching in and finding a way to transform it, a different way to say it, how to put yourself out there.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of people who are listening to us talk that the creatives that, like, we wish we didn't have that need.
I know.
but we do, and we'll die with it.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, friends will make jokes and be like, "What are we working on now?" I'm like, well, I've got this going. Yeah. That's why I love the direction that you went into, expressing the authentic, your soul, the authentic version of who you were. And then that kept going and that kept going. And it started to become, your spiritual journey. And, so my point is that, although obviously it would be amazeballs to be booked in Vegas for, a year or whatever. And obviously, we're not going to say that wouldn't be amazing, and to be with Atlantic and be on NBC or whatever the heck. I'm not going to take that away. But at the same time, I know in my heart that there is a limitation when you go that route, that you have to. It's like dating someone who you really like, who doesn't fully accept you for who you are and needs you to be a specific way. And, all of us, when we were younger, we were like, well, what way? I'm a square. Should I be a circle now? What do you want me to do?
Isn't that all of our parents, though?
Yes, exactly. Right. Of course. Right. That's where it starts. I'm an oddball. So I know it's hard for my parents to be like, what is this? Yeah. What's happening here? And when I was in the audition world, and I was in Los Angeles and all of that, and I always was like, this doesn't feel like the full expression of my soul. And there was always something in me that was kind of like, as much as like I said, I'm not going to take it away. It would be amazing to have all that. At the same time, we live our lives within our own beings. And when I look at your music, journey, it is extraordinary to me.
It's about living the inner life out loud, right?
Yes.
And that's really the difference. In, like, we have a freedom to do that you don't have in corporate entertainment, really.
Correct.
I don't think.
Right.
And like I straddle two worlds where I have felt like a lot of pressure for several years to think like, oh, can't talk about spirituality stuff because that's cringe, or I can't be too earnest. I can't really let the personal voice shine because that's not what most people in that world are going to try to keep a very castable, low profile, don't say too much, just post show pics, occasionally politics, and maybe a dog photo, but don't really actually say.
Yes. And that's why I love, I'm yes-anding what you're saying. In the way that I'm saying, like, we both are of this similar,
same
in
cloth,
that,
cut from the same cloth,
from the same cloth, in that we were like this, instead of being a circle, we were like,
yeah.
And,
but it's also like what Leslie Jordan used to tell me all the time. He used to tell me, because he was one of the first person I met in LA, and actually one of the reasons, him and Del Shores are the reason. I mean, like, I started going to meetings and getting sober.
Oh, I love that.
They knew I had a problem. Leslie called me out one day when I was singing after the play Southern Baptist Sissies that he was starring in, and he was like, you need to get some help. He said it in a much funnier way because everything that falls out of his mouth is just funny. But he's one of the reasons he got me sober. He told me, he says, lean into everything that makes you different, because then you may not be the actor who goes from show to show to show to show because you don't have sort of a general homogenized voice that can just sort of pass from one show to the other. If you're too unique, lean into what's unique, because then they'll always know to come to you for that.
Yes. Exactly.
Smartest advice ever.
I mean, and that is who you are. You are a multifaceted artist, and you have your own unique personality and character and energy, and it's something that's needed in the world. And
I think that's why I gravitate towards people like yourself, people who have that misfit energy, who then like totally just says, I'm going to stick out. I'm going to do me.
Yes.
I'm going to know who I am. I'm going to speak it, and I'm going to speak my truth in a way that people are invited to the table from all walks of life, and put it out there and say, this is, and you do that.
Yeah.
And like I'm finding more and more of those people every day, I think.
And you know what I think also we may have in common is that we didn't come out of the gate embracing that. At least I didn't. Right?
No.
I came out of the gate like, please accept me, please.
Totally.
I'll be whatever you want. What do you want?
Yeah. Our closet was full of costumes to accommodate every version of ourselves that anyone else would have ever wanted us to see.
I was just constantly being like, how can I get this crazy into this? And it comes, I think part of the journey for me at least was the massive amount of rejection.
Yeah.
Eventually, like going back to what we had just said was eventually it was like, okay, I can't not do this. I have to express.
But people who don't think outside of the box will never know what to do with you.
Right.
And that's the thing that you learn after you've been around for a while. Yeah. And I'm okay with that now, because I have to tell my agents what to do with me. Like people just don't know when your voice is a little different than the norm, or this is a little different.
Yes.
It's like you have to get really okay with educating people and telling them.
I love that.
Telling them without apology.
That's great.
Like, no, you don't get it. This is where you need to put me.
Wow. I love that. I'm gonna hold on. I'm writing that one down.
100%. Yeah.
I'm writing that one down. That's good.
Being proactive about how the world sees you.
I love
First of all, being very clear that if you are a product that's different, like I have this weird, Richie, Barry tenor, non-musical theater voice.
Oh, your voice is one of my favorite voices there is.
But it's not easy for Broadway-centric people to know what to do with. And so then you have to say, let me take the lead here. Like you have to know yourself so well and be confident enough in what you do that you take the lead and teach people where to put you.
I love that. You know what I hear is like, if you were walking into a room to be involved in a show like, playing a character that if you're looking at it in that way, you walk in and you're like, this is my version of the character. I love it. I leave it.
Yeah. Yes. And it takes balls to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make choices that are so quintessentially you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's either going to be, oh my God, I can't believe that perspective.
Right.
Or it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that perspective.
Nope. I have vision and that's not it.
But if the goal is not to get it right, the goal is to go in the audition room and say, you know what, I entertained them.
Yeah.
And I made their day better.
Yes.
And they're going to remember me.
Right.
And then when they get something that's just about a half inch over more to the left, they're going to remember
right.
that's me.
Yeah. And also, I think for ourselves, we know it's not easy to walk the path of just really being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's lonely, but very rewarding path.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to face yourself.
We talk about self-love a lot, but like self-love is not comfortable. Mm-hmm. Self-love is action, and self-love sometimes is good old-fashioned discipline.
Yep.
Self-love is sometimes facing all of your insecurities and doing the thing that you're scared of most. Yeah. Self-love is radical, and it's not an Instagram meme where we can look in the mirror and say, this is me, and sing The Greatest Showman. Yeah. That is not the depth of what self-love is, right? We know that because self-love is work.
Yep. And it's I came to this point, and it took me a very long time, where I was like, if I don't show up for myself, it's no one's going to do that. And And at the same time, it is the greatest gift you can give to yourself.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, really.
Yeah, because
and I can get really nerdy about it and be like, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
No, I love it.
If you do that discipline that's self-love for 90 days, it becomes a habit, and then you have a new habit. But like. It's true, though.
No, it is true. It is true.
In that aspect, but it is the gift that keeps on giving. That's for sure.
Sometimes I even call myself by my own name. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, get up and go, Suzanne, get up.
Yeah.
You got to film. You got to record that thing. You get Suzanne.
You don't have to be in the mood. Just do it.
Right. And that's huge too. And then,
Well, let's just talk about that, because like we live in a society where everything hinges on feeling.
Yeah.
Like our moods are based on feeling, the way someone else made us feel.
Yeah.
And like we have to stop.
I know.
At some point, because there is a beauty in not being in the mood to then say this morning, having to get up at 5 a.m. and to go to the gym so that I had the rest of the day to work. I'm like, I don't feel like this, and I hate this right now, but I'm going to do it because I know when I get to the other end of this, the endorphins are going to feel great. I'm going to feel like a badass, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to meditate, but the minute I think most of us don't want to do a lot of the things.
If we could lie around.
If we could just lie on a couch.
Cheetos, eat Doritos, and watch, binge.
Netflix.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, yes.
But in reality, in 3 days, we would be so miserable.
It's not the gift that keeps on giving.
That's not.
It does because each subsequent day that we deny the things that feed and fuel our soul.
Yes.
Then that's another day that we actually start hating ourselves more.
100%.
Because we internalize it. We internalize it and we say, I'm shit. I didn't because we want to make ourselves proud.
Yes, that's so true. Every once in a while, then it's fun and that's cool. But when I know I'm avoiding, then I start feeling not happy with myself. And that is a bad feeling.
Yeah. I think spiritual growth is I think I can do this. Sometimes I may not be able to push through that, but can I invite myself to have a little less tolerance for that?
Right.
Because if we can close in the gap of how tolerant we are with our choices to not show up for ourselves. When we feel the pain of that, when we really allow ourselves to go in and feel the darkness of that,
yes,
we're going to get tired of it. Like, I think there's something to just being present in the moment, whatever choice you made, right? Because
Yeah.
that present moment then is going to be like, ooh, I am totally, like, for instance, one of the ways that I stopped smoking was Deepak Chopra had this a book called Overcoming Addiction, which is genius. And he was like, don't stop the smoking, but I want you to sit there when you smoke and I want you to savor. I want you to be so present that everything about that, I want you to feel what it feels like in your lungs. I want you to look at your skin. I want you to feel the constriction of your veins. It was like, be so present that all you have is the honesty of the moment.
Oh my gosh.
And that in and of itself begins to build intolerance.
Yes.
That then naturally moves you into alignment with the choices that feel loving.
Yes. Right. I mean, I'm feeling into that, you know, because I remember my last, because I was a very heavy smoker, and I started to realize, I was like, I'm literally smoking the cigarette, going, do I have time for another one? And not even. So when you say, you know, that exercise, I'm like, I could see how that could work.
How it could work. Yeah.
Because it was.
I was at a pack and a half a day. I was like, And you know what? It's so funny. I've kicked the meth, the alcohol, but the one thing, you blow smoke in my face.
You'll be like, no, I'm off that train. I'm the annoying ex-smoker. Now I'm like, is somebody smoking? Is somebody home smoking? Okay. I'm the Karen of smokers.
You were the girl when we had restaurants that had a smoking section.
Oh my God,
you were the one sitting right on the edge of it, complaining about everybody else.
Can I sit right at that table? Oh my God, it's so smoky here. So I want to talk about just kind of the transition that your music made into spirituality.
Okay,
and the inspiration that was behind that.
We're at a good point for this because it happened in sobriety.
Yeah.
So after one of the ones, I think that I was really feeling bold enough to speak about religion versus sexuality and my 6 years of conversion therapy and how I loved God so much, but I felt so rejected. So I had this album called The Gospel According to Levi, and it's sort of still for me a lighthouse to say, you're not pushing your own personal limits unless you're feeling that way.
I'm just going to dial in a little bit. So you're in your sobriety, you're in your sobriety journey.
Not yet. I'm totally in Gospel According to Levi. I am using.
So we're using.
I am traveling the country. I'm in every gay rag. 21 weeks #1 music video on the Logo channel. I was feeling myself, but I was slowly starting to use more and more. That album came out in 2007. So in 2009, I finally started like realizing I needed to get sober.
And then
that was when I started writing about, like, I did a musical version of the Third Step Prayer. I did a sort of a New Thought Christianity version of I Surrender All. I leaned into an album called Where I Belong, where it was literally my first effort to try to justify growing up really loving the Lord and loving and being a naturally very intuitive spiritual person. That was just a part of my being I needed to activate, and I'd shut it off for so long.
I was going to say, you mentioned when you were a kid and you were having to go through the conversion, but it was like your love for God that made you try. So because you were being misled. I'm sorry, but you were being misled because you are perfect, in the eyes of the Spirit and mine.
Yeah.
And, that it feels like, you were able to activate that love that you feel for God in an authentic way from who you were.
Exactly.
That feels amazing.
I felt like it was coming back with that because I didn't really know what it meant yet. I just knew that my granddaddy was the example, and I knew that I grew up being engaged in my spiritual life. And the moment I was hitting rock bottom and realizing, like, I have a problem, I am a drug addict, I realized, like, the answer has got to be, I have to figure out what I feel spiritually, So Where I Belong didn't answer a lot of questions. It's just started asking a lot of questions. And I think I've continued to ask those questions and that's the thing. It's like, it's enough to ask a question. We don't have to know all the answers. And a lot of us are coming out of religious wounds that have kept us paralyzed, so much so that we don't want to engage our spirit.
Yeah.
We'll talk all day long about mental health, about physical health, about a great diet, or about this and that, but not many of us want to talk about spiritual health because you know what? We have too many questions about it and too many wounds.
Yeah, a lot of wounds. It's very unfortunate. But as you have done, I believe, these, our greatest wounds can be our biggest gateways to our freedom and our gifts of who and what we are.
Yes. I always believe that what we've gone through really does make us an authority on that thing.
Amen.
If we choose to speak on it from our place of power. And I think that's really about the time music and spirit really started to merge for me, was that moment, was that album even.
And so you just kind of you were inspired to continue in that direction.
I was, but a year later, that was when the Tony Award happened. So suddenly, I could have had and that record was doing good. It was like in the top 5 on rotation of iHeartRadio for adult contemporary. I mean, it was like doing really well, but like suddenly nobody even knew I was a singer-songwriter because
you were Jerry Lee.
The Tony Award happened,
You were
and
Tony
now
winner.
he's Jerry Lee now.
Yeah.
So that was tough to know what to do with, because all I had known for years prior to that was this freedom of self-expression through being a singer-songwriter. And now I had found a space to where I wanted to talk about spirituality.
Yes.
Matter of fact, it was so weird because that year I had people who were interviewing me post Tony Awards, and sometimes I would even say in the interview, like, I don't even know, I think I want to go into ministerial. I don't know what I want to do. And like, can you imagine how weird that was?
No.
For an interviewer to see a Tony Award winning performer in his debut, say, well, I think I just want to go back and become a minister. It's like, who are you? That's odd. But I didn't know where to take it. And I felt all of a sudden this newfound freedom of spirituality and music was just abruptly interrupted by a different reality, a reality I'm grateful for.
Yes.
But it immediately made me have to be like, oh, well, now what? Because am I supposed to be this now?
Right.
Because this really is a gut punch in the gut. Like, should I do this?
Right.
Or like, how am I going to express what's happening now? And that's when I kind of like post Tony Award, I just came back to LA and I did a Kickstarter campaign. And I did Imagine Paradise record, and that was a New Thought record. Because, and so I don't know if that was the best decision in the world coming off of a Tony Award win, but it was all I knew how to do at the time. I didn't know how to process
you were moved to do.
What was happening. I didn't know what it meant, what had happened to me. I didn't know what people expected of me after that.
Well,
you don't know how to deal with that moment. You just don't. And all I knew was like, I just wanted to be a licensed spiritual practitioner and make this record about New Thought.
I love that. And there's no rules. There's no one way to do anything. There's no, this is what you do after this, and this is what you do after this. I mean, I think I fall prey to that myself. Like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be doing it this way. And it's like, there's no such thing.
You to. I mean, I still only in the last few years, especially this last 2 or 3 years, have I been able to feel like a more integrated person.
I love
that I can embrace what my life has become in musical theater and still embrace who I have always been as a mouthy, wannabe, rebellious singer-songwriter who wants to talk to a cringe degree about spirituality. And it's okay. And I'm okay. And I'm finding that embracing, like, integration is a word I say a lot these days. Because I think it's really interesting when we've compartmentalized ourselves so much that we think that when we're doing that, we're making ourselves more palatable to this group. Or this part of our
We're
family.
packaging ourselves in a way that people can digest.
Or even, like, let's just bring it down to the non-creatives. Like, we feel that way around certain groups of friends, we'll be this person. Around these group of friends, we're somebody else. Around family, we're somebody else. And we've compartmentalized all parts of ourselves so much so to appease people who we can't ever fully appease in the first place. And we don't know what it feels like to be an integrated, holistic human being.
Agreed, 100%. And I think for me, I don't know about you, but that is where I really experienced aloneness in a way that I think I feared for a really long time. and I'm finding is like my greatest strength. When you're forging a creative path that there's no one else doing it, and you're in there all by yourself, it just feels like you're in the middle of space.
Say more about your experience with that.
Like you're sharing, you know, I have chosen to follow my soul's path and grow and move through my stuff and find out, you know, my authentic experience of myself as an artist and as a person. And integrated 100%. And they're in the middle of it when you're executing, when you're doing the stuff. It can feel like you are all by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I avoided that because I intuitively knew that I would feel that. And I was like, oh, I don't want to, but I had no clue that would strengthen me beyond my understanding.
Right.
Because once you get comfortable with being with that part of yourself that's like, I can't do it. You're like, and you're with that part and you're like, well, we're going to do it. And, you know, lovingly.
Because the loneliness and the silence is when the demons come calling.
Right.
That's when they stand in front of you and they're ghouling faces and they're like throwing every self-doubt.
You're this, you're that, you're this. They're going to say this. It's never going to this. And moving forward anyway is nobody knows how strengthening that is.
Is the sacred act itself.
It is the sacred act.
Regardless of what's even coming out of that act.
Yes.
The sacred act is saying, I hear you, and step forward.
Right.
I hear you, step forward.
It is. And it's
whatever, I step forward.
And I think it's how you become self-actualized.
Yes.
Truly.
Yeah.
It's not always fun when I'm tired or when I want to do this or whatever, but it's yours. But it's mine. And when I'm in it and I'll take a moment and I go, oh my gosh, like I am just on a journey all by myself, walking through the cave. And isn't that cool?
Yeah. It reminds me of the book Care for the Soul, because there was a part of that book that talked about romancing the dark. And it just changed my perspective. I think, again, we go back to like judging, demonizing struggle, or demonizing the dark aspects of who we are. It's very Jungian, I suppose, to invite us to actually have a dialogue with that and know that it actually serves a very, very important purpose.
Big purpose.
And all of those little astral parasites, those little demons who are they just need to, like, what is it you really need?
Right.
What is it we really want? Like, let me see you come out of the shadow into the light and let me talk to you.
Yes.
Because until I figure out a way to transmute you into something that's beneficial for me.
To alchemize you.
That's right. That's the word.
Yep. Yeah, but transmute too. And that's exactly it. And I'm in that process as well, where I'm saying, I see you, I hear you, I'm not trying to resist you, I'm not trying to like chastise you. I want to go along this journey with you and for us to grow together. Yeah. So I want to get into this, your podcast, your new return back in the lights. Back in lights. And the
I really want to sing Backstreet Boys right now so bad.
What is it?
Backstreet's back. All right.
You know, honestly, I was going to tell you this, but I was like, oh no, but I'm going to do it anyway. One of my favorite songs of yours. Of yours is like so fitting for what we were just talking about. Is like, I'm not afraid.
Let it rain, let it pour. This is what I came here for.
I mean, that is a fucking song.
Thank you.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
It's in my playlist.
I love that. We've sang that, I think, at Bodie.
Yes. Yep. It's an unbelievable song.
I'm sure we have.
It's so good.
The podcast. So it was so fun. It started during COVID, and I really wanted to find a way to keep connected. And obviously, I had thought about that medium and being able to have deeper, richer conversations, kind of an extension of and you know what, maybe going back to being that it might have been an outlet for me in my mind of like, I'm a theater actor. I can't get into like too much intimate conversation. I have to just stay nice and castable.
Right.
And
Yes.
keep
Sure.
everything. Like, I think the podcast was sort of my way of trying to find my way around.
Yes.
Like,
I get
it
it.
started in this way. Like, I need to have spiritual conversations. So I would have like, you know, it's a pretty cool guest. I did have a lot of New Thought ministers as well, but I also had a couple of Broadway performers and really kind of
That's cool.
pushed them into trying to find something a little more substantial about their experience and speak on the spirit of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called the Church of Kreis podcast.
So love it.
Which was so fun.
So amazing.
I felt like it was a little irreverent.
I love it.
Which, and also, if you don't know me, you would think like, is that kind of haughty? Like,
I just want to say, to me, it's like really groovy.
okay. I hope it's actually kind of like cheeky and
It's
takes the piss out of it
whiz.
all,
Oh my God,
right?
100%. Yes. Only someone with zero sense of humor would not appreciate that.
Exactly. Well, there's plenty of people
Well,
who
that's
don't
their
have a sense of
problem.
humor these days, but they're not our friends.
We don't know them. We don't know them.
We don't know them. We don't know
We don't
them.
associate with them.
Like Mariah about J-Lo. I don't know her.
I don't know her.
I don't know her. So the Church of Kreis is obviously an umbrella for conversations that I want to have about like a great tour or a new album or this and stuff, but it always hinges on personal growth. And this new relaunch that happened, I had 2 seasons of the Church of Kreis, and then I changed the title and wanted to focus on everyone else's sobriety stories. As a matter of fact, I have one of the last interviews that Leslie Jordan ever did was on my podcast there, and we had the best conversation, probably the best conversation that we had in a few years was that like 3 months before he passed on my podcast. And then I wanted to switch it back and relaunch it because it felt like integration was my motivation, right? And the name, and not talking about sobriety specifically, but like let me see if I can not have a hang up about social media. I can not have a hang up about like what I say to these people and what I say to these people, and you know, separate myself off. And it was a personal challenge to me to say no.
Yes,
the Church of Kreis is a great umbrella for everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to give yourself permission to talk about all of what you do.
Yes.
But just talk about it in the way that you talk, and bring personal growth into it, and live your inner life out loud while you're being creative.
And it is a really great umbrella to have your music be a part of it as well.
Yeah. And I did a few episodes where I actually go and really hit the spiritual message behind the song and then play the song afterwards, which is good. So there's all kinds of things I can do with it. And I'm excited because I didn't realize that there were people missing it until I started again, and all of a sudden I started getting these DMs about like, I'm so glad you brought this back.
Oh my God.
I mean, like they never told me when they were listening.
I know.
But then like it's back, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I have this morning routine now that I can listen to it. And I'm just like, oh my God. So it is a special connection with, and I find my people through having conversations that I think that I hope always that we can all relate to, and we're having a blast.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it so much. And so it gets published
Monday at 6 a.m.
Oh, I love it. Fabulous.
I just put it in there for the morning commuters, especially a lot of the midlife Gen Xers like myself like to start the week off early in the morning in their commute.
I love that.
Something that's a little uplifting.
Yeah. You know, I don't remember what song it was. I heard a song that they said the line is "Life happens after church." I'm like, was it Jay-Z? That's something. But anyway,
it's true.
It's so true. And so that's why it's like, oh, we can have like Sunday, you know, at 11 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. I have this experience, and then I go to, and
then the other side of it.
Oh, that's a little my fucking life.
Make the left turn.
Oh my God. In my car, I need to have like an actual minister in the car with me to exercise me.
Amazing.
Well, I'm so excited to tune in, and I just enjoy what your energy and your wisdom and your insight and your artistry. I just, like I said, I am such a huge fan of you. And I'm so grateful that our paths crossed.
Likewise, though, it's all mutual.
Oh, thank you. And, I'm so excited for your new adventure in the Church of Kreis.
Thank you. And a new musical that I can't speak too much about yet.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Follow me on my socials.
Okay. Upcoming musical. I'm going to put all his links in the show description, and LeviKreis.com, correct?
Yes. And at Levi Kreis is every handle of every social.
At Levi Kreis, LeviKreis. Not Christ.
Yes.
Levi, it has been my absolute joy to talk with you. You're so amazing, and you're just a soul. You're my soul brother.
It's ditto.
I really feel like that, especially just from this conversation. I'm like, we have our paths keep doing this, and it's because of we
don't get enough of these.
I know, we need more.
Where we actually sit and deep dive.
Yeah.
Like selfishly, this was a great excuse to do that.
Yes.
So.
Agreed. I know everyone is going to just love hearing about your journey. And please listen to Levi's podcast, because he is absolutely extraordinary. And listen to his music
on all podcast platforms.
All podcast platforms, as is this one. No, I'm kidding.
As is the Spiritual Shitshow.
And I just thank you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you
for having me.
OMG, what an incredible conversation. I am so honored and privileged that Levi joined me on the Spiritual Shitshow podcast. I am so grateful that you have joined me as well. My name is Suzanne Soul. This has been the Spiritual Shitshow podcast, and I will see you on the next one. Roll it, honey.